Welcome. It's another day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana with me, Atmadarshan, or Laura, whichever you care to call me. We've been talking about the Bhagavad Gita for over 250 days now, and I've just appreciated all of you on the journey, whether you were there from day one or whether you've joined more recently. Even though I've been doing this now for most of a year, I had a realization. I think this is good to keep having realizations as you travel your spiritual path. And that was, I have been approaching this sadhana personally in a non-helpful way, shall we say. So one of the things that I thought of when I undertook this year-long practice was, it's going to change me. Yay, I'm going to be changed. I'm going to be better than ever. And I realized, since we're talking about what yoga is about the past couple of days, that is absolutely not what yoga is about. We've talked about in the past couple of days, one of the things that yoga is about is union. If I'm trying to change myself, then I'm not at union or peace or oneness with myself, because it's like I see myself as something separate that I can change, but I am myself. So it's like I'm pitting myself against myself. And that's where a lot of our conflict comes from, internally, and then it spreads outwardly. So I was actually doing kind of anti-yoga, and it just clicked for me a couple days ago. If you're doing yoga to try to change yourself, which I think many people do, like make my back feel better, make myself like myself better, manage my stress. I mean, those are great motivators to start yoga. But ultimately, if you want to learn about yoga, you need to give up on the idea of changing yourself, because that sets up conflict within yourself. You can change, but it's not by fighting yourself. Just think of people, on opposite ends of the political spectrum. When you try to fight, they just dig in their heels more. And that's what you're doing to yourself. The one part of you that's judging you and that's telling yourself you're not good enough. And the other part's like, gosh darn it, I am good, and is resisting. I'm good enough just as I am. And you have that internal conflict. Actually, that's why the Bhagavad Gita is so powerful. It appears to be about an external conflict, but it's really about the conflict within Arjuna. And his guide, Krishna, is unique in the human race, in that from the very beginning, Krishna has accepted himself. He's accepted his lot in life. He's accepted that his parents were imprisoned, and he, despite being royalty, was being raised by people others would think of as a lower caste, which are cowherders. And he accepted that. He accepted becoming a prince. He's accepting this conflict between his two sides of his family. And in fact, several verses in the Gita, like 9:8 and 10:8, he talks about his own nature. For example, in chapter 9:8, he says he creates the world around him helplessly by the force of his own nature. And you might think, does that mean he's saying he's a god? Well, maybe. But we all are creating the world around us from our own nature. If you and I walk down a street together, you're going to see things that appeal to your interests. Like maybe you're interested in trees or architecture or other people, and you're going to see that. And I am very interested in food, so I'm going to see the restaurants and smell all the food that I possibly can. And who's right? Neither of us. Just that the world that we're creating around us is created helplessly by the force of our own nature. And he says something like that again in verse 10:8. So the idea is that our nature is carrying us along. Yoga is accepting that the way we were born, we have a purpose. We have something to contribute, or we wouldn't be here. And we spend so much of our lives trying to change ourselves, and that's internalized right from the beginning. If you don't fit a certain way of being from birth, then it's all about trying to fit you in. There's a lot I could say about that, but we only have a limited time. So What I will mention is that one of the things Krishna mentions in the Gita is that he is just constantly unfolding his own being. That's what he's doing, is he's being himself and letting himself unfold. A very powerful lesson, because having done yoga for many years now, I can tell you that the only time yoga has changed me is when I haven't been trying to change myself. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And some of you who know me may have heard this story before, or these stories. So I had a lot of allergies, pretty severe. And I've been fighting them my whole life, taking Benadryl and avoiding those things that make me allergic, which actually grew as I got older. The more I avoided, the more allergies I developed. It was fascinating. So one day I was just aware. When I was very young, my diet wasn't the best. It was a very typical American diet because that's what I was fed by a step parent who was taking care of me at home. So much fast food, so much red meat, processed food, sugar, so much pop. I was once told, stop drinking milk. Pop is cheaper. Oh, and that's here in this part of the country, soda, for those of you in other parts of the country, or cola, or Coke, whatever you want to call it. So that was my upbringing. And what I realized doing yoga is just sitting and being present with myself and the diet that I had grown up with and the diet I was choosing to eat. And suddenly I realized what I was eating was making me feel a certain way. So I just stopped eating the stuff that made me feel bad. And then my allergies started going away. And then instead of avoiding things I was allergic to, like dogs, I started befriending them. And that reduced my allergies. So that created a real change in me physiologically. Thank goodness. I don't have to eat Benadryl. There was a period in time when I was eating enough Benadryl to damage my liver. But the change didn't happen because I'm a yoga person and I'm inadequate because I can't manage my allergies, and gosh darn it, I am going to. It's more like, let's accept, what am I? Where am I now? What am I doing? Is that what I want to be doing? Oh, no. And there was no fight about it. It's just like, I'm going to do something different. So this is yoga. You can change, but if you're fighting yourself to make yourself change, my experience is what the Gita says is it's not going to work. This is what Krishna is doing with Arjun. Arjun is trying so hard to resist who he is at his core, thinking that it's bad, and Krishna is saying, accept. And here are 18 methods of yoga. So we've talked about what yoga is, 18 methods of yoga to do that, to accept yourself. The first one is just accept that you're not completely happy. That's a yogic path. Instead of trying to make yourself look happy, make yourself look good for the social media, make yourself put on the smiling face, accept that you're not happy at some level. That's the first yoga, and you may be beyond that, but that's the stepping stone, acceptance. So that's what yoga is about, uniting with yourself. Can you feel like you're your own best friend, that you are on your own side? Let's find out in some practice. We start with a pose, and being on your own side means making the pose work for you, however it is today, whatever it's like today. Can you see me? Let's switch sides. Whatever side you were working on, do the other one. There we go. turned into a being of light. How fascinating. By the way, today's practice is being dedicated to the flower people. You can't fight with flowers. You have to take care of them and cooperate. And then they just keep blooming into various stages of existence. The gorgeous flower, the seeds for the next generation, the sprouts. They're unfolding their own nature. As you contemplate today, I invite you to notice if you can't just be with yourself, but accept yourself fully. And if you're doing that, what might unfold or blossom within you? Let's find out for 5. Oh, I'm pausing. If you'd like, a flower mudra is lotus. It's like Anjali, the thumbs and little fingers are together, and then the other fingers blossom out. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful meditation because you are wonderful just as you are. May you, like the flowers, continue to blossom and to ever become yourself. Talking about acceptance, there's something big you have to accept about yourself, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So until then.